Welcome to the European Football Show live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Patrick Mullen, joined once again by Blair Malloy as we are now getting into the meat and bones of this year's Champions League. We're into the playoff. Leg 1 is down and we're here to preview Leg 2. Blair, what did you make of the opening round of the playoffs?
Yep, some really interesting games, Patrick. Some high-scoring games. I quite like this playoff round. It gives the top teams a little bit of a break, and it's now a bit more competitive between the teams finishing below that top 8. So it's very exciting. A few games we'll come on to talk to. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Some really exciting games. Let's have a look at some of the results. We had Brest 0, PSG 3, Juventus 1. Man City 2, Real Madrid 3, Sporting 0, Borussia Dortmund 3. Moving on to the Wednesday night, Club Brugge 2, Atalanta 1, Monaco 0, Benfica 1, Celtic 1, Bayern Munich 2, and Feyenoord 1, AC Milan 0. Blair, we'll kick off with a Scottish team, Celtic 1, Bayern Munich 2. What did you make of that, and maybe some positives to take for Celtic?
Yeah, I think the first thing initially, Patrick, Celtic Park had liftoff when Nicolas Kühn had that ball in the net after 25 seconds. Of course, it got ruled out for offside. It's just one of those moments. If it stood, what a game, what a different game it could have been. But of course, Adamida standing in an offside position, just really, really unfortunate there. I think then Bayern just went on to show their class. I think it was a really good finish from Michael Olise, turning the fullback inside out, and then you can't leave Harry Kane unmarked at the back post. You can't. You've seen that corner coming in, and you've seen it the whole way going, he's on his own, and then he does what Harry Kane does, he puts it in the back of the net. But like you said, there are a lot of positives to take from the game. Daizen Maeda scoring late on, with Celtic to take a vital goal over to the Allianz.
Yeah, Maeda almost keeping Celtic in the tie. I think 2-0 down, going over to a ground like the Allianz would almost be game, set and match before the game even kicked off. But I do want to talk about two things there. The Adamida ruled out goal, obviously, what a finish from Kühn. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I think Joe Hart summed it up in commentary. Manuel Neuer is judging his dive on he can't dive until he knows what Adamida's going to do. If Adamida isn't there, I think he goes earlier, and who's to say, maybe he gets a hand on it, maybe he doesn't, but I think the fact that there is a point of contention there that Adamida has made him make a decision, and he's in an offside position, means that the goal's going to be ruled out.
Yeah, I think on Wednesday night as well, the pundits, they were really quite good in saying with Harry Kane, it's about leadership. You're looking at a corner coming in. Yes, the goalkeeper should be saying who's marking Harry Kane, but you also got to have maybe that leadership figure in the centre backs, or even Callum McGregor going, Harry Kane, one of the most prolific strikers in world football, is standing at the back post unmarked, and well, he punished them.
Yep, of course he did, Patrick. But there's no point in looking back too much about that. It's a little bit looking forward. Like I said, that Daizen Maeda goal at the very end, it gives Celtic just something to hang on to going into that game. And I think when you're the underdog, that's all you can really hope for. Now, don't get me wrong, Bayern had a pretty good result at the weekend as well. They drew 0-0 with Leverkusen. It leaves them 8 points clear in the Bundesliga. Anything other than a Leverkusen win would have pretty much sealed the title for Bayern Munich. So they're going to be coming into this absolutely flying with confidence. Celtic, they've got a little nugget of hope, but I still think it's going to be too much for them to overcome.
I think there's just too much quality in that Bayern Munich squad. You were saying that game on the weekend. I was looking at even their starting 11 then, comparing it to the game. You got Manuel Neuer, Harry Kane, Olise signed from Crystal Palace. He was tearing it up in the Premier League. Leroy Sané, formerly of Manchester City. Kimmich, Upamecano, Musiala, just quality after quality. And Celtic, they're going to have a job on their hands. But we spoke to Brendan Rodgers. Let's see what he had to say about the game coming up. We've made strides this season from last season in the competition. We've been competitive. I wanted us to be able to show our level throughout the competition, and we have done that. Whatever happens on Tuesday, the guys can be really proud of what they've achieved, and we look to build on that again. Blair, is this the ceiling for Celtic in this competition?
Yeah, I can't see anything other than a Bayern Munich win, I'll be honest, Patrick. But I think everybody just wanted Celtic, and everyone associated with Celtic, of course, just wanted to get out of that initial stage and get to the next round, get to a knockout round. That I think is progress this year. I think, as Brendan Rodgers says there, they've made strides this season. I think it's now to build on that, to finish higher up that table and potentially get a little bit of an easier tie next time out, and then maybe take a step further.
I'll wait for your prediction till the very end for our newest PLZ predictions section of the show.
So we can have it in writing how wrong we are every single week.
We'll be back next week to show you how bad our knowledge is at football in Europe. Moving on to game number 2, Real Madrid, Manchester City, probably the tie of the round. It delivered for sure in that first leg.
This is and another instalment of this heavyweight clash between Manchester City, Real Madrid, and like you said, Patrick, they absolutely never disappoint. Game of the round for me by an absolute mile. It's one of these games now that's becoming much must-watch sport. It's one of these games that you have to sit down because you know something special is going to happen, and boy, did it. Erling Haaland scoring a ball from Jack Grealish is something unbelievable that you just don't see at the lower levels of football. That's really elite level stuff. Manchester City being ahead so late on, and Real Madrid showing that resilience, just that never say die attitude to win that game. It was incredible viewing.
I think I'm like most young people in today's generation. I have the attention span of, I don't even know, nothing.
Tell me.
But I was watching that game with a pal on Tuesday night, and we could hardly take our eyes off the screen. It was quality after quality, and I think no one almost epitomises that than Jude Bellingham. The 92nd minute, a grueling game of football, 90 minutes, to have that pace, to have that power, it just shows how hard they're working outside of the games to still be able to beat John Stones with pace, beat him out of the pressure, and score the winner and give Real Madrid a huge advantage into the second leg.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Jude Bellingham obviously caught up in a little bit of controversy at the weekend. Real Madrid coming off the back of that win, they could only draw with Osasuna, and he was sent off after what appears to be, like Carlo Ancelotti described it as, something a little bit of lost in translation. He used an expletive. Was it towards the referee? Was it away from the referee? There's a lot of debate going on in Spain right now as to whether the validity of this red card. Will that be in his head a little bit going into this game? I don't know, but what I do think is that Real Madrid, they are masters of this competition. They're so good at getting the job done, and it's another one of those moments for Manchester City this season when they're ahead late in games. You wouldn't have backed against them, seen it out before, but this year they just looked to have that little bit of vulnerability, and Real Madrid are certainly one team that are going to punish you.
I mean, they took the lead twice through Erling Haaland. They had also Man City, a 4-0 victory over Newcastle at the weekend, a really impressive display. But I'm sure Pep Guardiola would have almost had his heart in his mouth. He was so nervous when Erling Haaland went down injured. Speaking after the game, he did brush away those injuries, and I think if Man City are going to get anything out of this game, it'll be through him.
Yeah, I think Erling Haaland's going to be pivotal in this, but also Omar Mamouche. He can't take away that hat-trick at the weekend. It was incredible. Like, to come into the Premier League, to come into this Manchester City side, hit the ground running so quickly, a hat-trick on what, just his third game, I think, and it really epitomised the whole Manchester City strategy this January. I think it's not been going so well for them, so they've just accelerated this rebuild. It's an aging side, and they know we have to get new faces in the building. They've got Marmoush, they've got Kuznetsov, they've got Nico Gonzalez. These are all guys that are going to be at Manchester City for the next 5-6 years, the next iteration of this team. It might be too early for them in this Champions League, but I think seeing those green shoots will certainly be positive for Manchester City.
Yeah, I think Pep Guardiola has been delighted with their impact, but we also spoke to him after that 4-0 win against Newcastle to hear what he had to say ahead of that huge game on Wednesday night.
So we are going like always we have done, but this season, the reality, we have been miles away to. If you tell me, if you have performed like today, we have finished 22 in the Champions League, of course not. We have finished higher. But the reality, we have been really poor in performance in the roles this season. And just for one game that today played really good, and it's not going to change the opinion, the reality, the team it is right now. And we are still not good in terms of day by day being that, but of course it's better to travel to Madrid with this result than imagine either defeat in the last minutes or defeat. So at the end, okay, the chance is minor because the result was not good. 5 minutes ago with 2-1 it would have been different, but with 2-3 the chances is, but as much you have a chance, we are going to take it. We'll see what happens.
Richard?
There was obviously plenty of other games in the Champions League this week, Blair, but I want to hear your biggest upset of the round.
So I know we slightly disagree on this, Patrick, not to give anything away too early, but for me it is Feyenoord beating Milan 1-0, that goal from Paschal. I know Mike Maignan is at fault for the goal, but still, what an incredible result for Feyenoord, made only even more unbelievable by the fact they had sacked their manager 2 days before the game. Talk about a new manager bounce. The man in interim charge, he probably couldn't believe his luck that they've pulled this performance out, beating Milan on their home turf. Thought it was an excellent result. They followed that up with a 0-0 draw at the weekend. That's maybe just coming off the high of that result. Interestingly, Milan, they won at the weekend. They beat Hellas Verona. The scorer in that game, Santi Jimenez, who they signed from Feyenoord. They took their best striker. He scored at the weekend. So it should be really interesting to see how this one plays out.
I think the big thing as well, that second leg back at the San Siro, a stadium we've both been lucky enough to see in real life, that could be such a huge boost to AC Milan, having that home fans behind them on a night in the Champions League.
But there also could be a little bit of pressure, Patrick. Sergio Conceição, he's came in from Porto mid-season. He's came in with a lot of pressure that he is going to be the man to turn this Milan team around. They're sitting 7th in Serie A at the minute. Now, that's really unheard of for a Milan side. They want to be up top 2, top 3. They want to be challenging for the title, if not definitely in next year's Champions League places. Conceição, he came in, he said he's going to get the best out of Rafael Leao. That hasn't really happened yet, and I know the Milan fans will be looking at this game going, we have to get through this to the next stage of the Champions League, or he could be facing some serious pressure.
For me, biggest upset of the round, Club Brugge versus Atalanta. It finished 2-1 to Club Brugge thanks to a last-minute penalty. When I'm talking last minute, 94th minute. What a moment that was to award a penalty. Before I get into the game, it was never a penalty. If you haven't seen it, take a look at this one. Isaac Hayne with his hand out, almost trying to shield the ball in the box. He just maybe catches Nielsen. I don't think there's even any contact on his face. He goes down, referee goes straight to the penalty. VAR does not intervene. Up steps Nielsen, slots the ball home. What a moment that was. The Atalanta players, the fans, were in uproar after that game. They couldn't believe it that the referee had given that. But you're looking at the group stages. Now, Atalanta finished in 9th place. They were so unlucky just to miss out on that automatic top 8 place. Club Brugge, 24th, the last team to make it in. What an upset that could be if they could hold on in the second leg.
Well, I think 2 things there, Patrick. I agree with you. I don't think it was ever a penalty. I think it was really harsh that penalty was given against them. And I think Atalanta will probably use that as a little bit of fuel for the next leg. They'll feel as though they're hard done by, and you would fancy them, well, I would fancy them to get through in the second leg. But I also think that for the people that have been critical of the new Champions League format, it shows that there's not foregone conclusions, that teams that maybe just miss out of that top 8 can be beaten by teams that are further down the list, and it also shows how vitally important it is to get into that top 8, because that secures you it past this whole headache of this round to get you into the latter stages. And I think teams now will be looking back at this playoff round for next year going, okay, top 8 is an absolute must. We can't just rely on, we'll make it to the playoff and then we'll get through. It's not a foregone conclusion. It's very much competitive games at this stage.
It's a headache in the Champions League, but it's also a nice week off in your domestic football. They're having a 5-day week, which is unheard of at the moment in these top elite players. They can spend some time recovering, a bit of rest, and also getting some instructions in from the manager. So that will be huge coming into next season. Now, before we leave here on the European Football Show, we've come up with a new idea to test our football knowledge. It's called PLZ predictions is what we're going with. Took all afternoon thinking of that one.
Yeah, that's really been a hot topic in the office, trying to come up with that one.
We're going to have a look. The second leg's coming up on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. We're going to predict who we think is going to make it into the knockout phases. Blair, you kick us off with your predictions so far.
So I've gone for Milan to overturn that game against Feyenoord. I think they'll get through there. I think Atalanta will overturn that deficit against Club Brugge as well. Bayern Munich, I think, will get through against Celtic. I think Monaco will come back against Benfica. Dortmund, I think they'll go through. I think PSG are pretty comfortable against Brest. I think Juventus will make it through. And quite controversially, perhaps, I think Real Madrid will hang on to their advantage and they will dump out Man City.
So there's two inconsistencies between us there. I've gone for Benfica, currently leading Monaco 1-0, and you've gone for Real Madrid. I liked the underdog of Manchester City. Something about their performance on the weekend against Real Madrid last week. I just felt they had a bit about them and could maybe pull off a little upset.
I think that may be the only time Man City are described as an underdog when they come up against Real Madrid.
Who is going to be an underdog against Manchester City? But I think Real Madrid, they've got so much quality at the Bernabeu. but I like to go against the
I'm
odds.
sure we'll come back and readdress those predictions and see how wrong we were.
We'll be back very soon next week reacting to all of this and looking forward to the last 16 fixtures. From myself and Blair Malloy, thanks for joining us once again.